So cannabis, the world of cannabis. Oh man, it's changed a lot since we talked last. Uh,
That's an understatement.
wow. I mean, when I first started the podcast, whatever it's been, 5, 6 years ago, man, cannabis was all the rave. Everybody wants in, everybody's trying to get in. All the executives from all the Fortune 500 companies are calling me saying, I got to get into cannabis. That's the place to be, blah, blah, blah. Well, here we are recording this on March 2024, and now everybody's running the other direction, or at least it seems that way. What?
You're totally right. You've seen a mass exodus of people from the cannabis industry over this last year and a half because, people even outside of the industry, just in general industries, you've seen how, inflation has just gone berserk.
Yeah.
Capital markets have dried up completely. Like no one's really raising capital like that. And then you put that microscope on cannabis where, there's not traditional funding available. We can't go to get an SBA loan. We can't go to the bank and get a line of credit. And so, those two things just really compressed the industry to a point where it's made it extremely challenging to operate. Um, People are spending less on cannabis for the first time. So it's like, how are we going to make up this margin, make up this ground? And with not being able to raise capital, it's just become extremely challenging. And then, on top of that, how I refer to it as AU, adult use, because I think I shared on the initial podcast, like I think the word recreational should be completely abolished from the cannabis industry because it's medicine at the end of the day. And for people who say they're recreational, yeah, I mean I use it recreational too, but I'm still using it to suit some need or provide some type of experience, which there's a lot of medication that does that for you. So that being said, with adult use really sweeping the market, in every market across the country, you see like this health and wellness train that, we rode to get legalization passed in all these various states kind of being pushed to the wayside now.
Mhm.
So, like here in Maryland, I experienced it on July 1st of last year. Adult use came in, and now patients are like, I'm not getting the same type of care or attention when I go into a dispensary. I'm like, hey, I have X, Y, and Z condition, or I'm looking for this particular experience with cannabis. They're just not getting that same
Mm,
consultation. Now people are just
mm,
being pushed to an iPad and say, place an order,
mm,
give me money and head out the door. So it's really been unfortunate.
mm. I hadn't thought of that. I've talked to a lot of people in cannabis. Nobody has brought up that specific point around the care that patients get. And wow, what a great reminder. Because I remember when I first did some consulting for cannabis, which is how I even started doing recruiting for cannabis a little bit, was I did some operations consulting first. And I was blown away by the level of service in a medicinal shop when patients would come in and the conversation with the person behind the counter. I remember the first time I witnessed that for about a half a day. I was like, wow, okay, that is a real consultative type of conversation. Like I had no idea that's even what it was. I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, I bet a lot of that has been pushed to the side. Now it's just a transaction, huh? Now it's just a transaction. Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, because a lot of, majority of the major MSOs, they just look at, quantity over quality of the
Mm,
experience. So,
mm,
but then at the same time, they'll talk out the left side of their mouth and be like, I don't know why people come to our store and buy product once and never come back. Well, chances are you're not providing the right experience, you're not providing the right consultation. And, what that leads to is like a customer going into a dispensary making a purchase based upon a recommendation of some bud tender who might have an alternative, I won't say alternative motive, but might be influenced to sell a certain product because the margin is nice for the dispensary. But that,
or they're overstocked on that particular strain
yeah,
or whatever.
exactly. But that customer goes home trusting that recommendation. Then the next thing you know, they have a negative experience and they're like not using cannabis or not shopping back at that store. So
Mm, mm,
and I don't know, it's just unfortunate that people don't see like where this industry is going to go at some point. If you look at like Canada as somewhat of an example where, it was legalized at that, at the state, at the country level.
Right.
And so like when you go in there, it's a lot more consultative than it is here. And they don't even use like strain names like we use here, like green crack and different shit like that. It's just a different approach. And if you think about how someday no one has the crystal ball to see when that's going to happen, but when federal legalization happens, descheduling happens here, I truly believe there's going to be a shift in the retail model away from just selling it as any intoxicant to more so there is going to be some medical influence behind the counter.
You think, or do you think it could be even worse and go the complete opposite direction where it's just a pack of cigarettes that you buy at Walgreens and it's no big deal?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go that way. And the reason I say that is because, a lot of the talk is about moving it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug. Well, if you look at a Schedule 3 drug, that's still a prescription. That is not an over the counter medicine that you could just buy at any point.
Okay.
And so we look at that framework of a Schedule 3. There needs to be someone who has that medical background who's saying, okay, Steve, this is what you should use. This is how much you should at least take, things of that sort.
Okay. Do you think that the ink pens will lift off of the desk from investors this year and we'll start to see cash again? Or is it still pins down, so to speak, from what you're hearing and seeing?
From what I'm saying, it still pins down because if you think about it, right, like so many of these investors have been sold the narrative that federal legalization is going to happen any minute, and then it's going to be gangbusters. We no longer have to deal with this 280E problem.
Yep.
And I mean, we've been telling that narrative for about what, close to 10 years now.
Yeah.
And so people are exhausted. They're just like, you know what? Because a lot of the investors that I've spoken to, because I always just like keep them up to date on what we're doing, and then of course get feedback from them about what their pulse is in terms of investing. And majority of them are simply waiting for the federal government to do something before they make any big investments moving forward.